Hello and welcome to American Amnesia. I'm your host, Cliff Garner, and I've been kind of putting off doing this one. I am marking the passing of a very dear friend of mine. Um, it just when friends depart, we sometimes have a little problems talking about it. And I suppose there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is that to a certain extent that in noting their passing, we're also tripwiring some other things in ourselves that maybe are hard to look at and hard to talk about, and because they're very close to us. And I'm no different in that way, I suppose. In fact, I'm sure of that. I didn't used to cry. I didn't really want to show that, and I was very good at steeling myself. But since I had my own near-death experience years ago, that was 1998, actually, that I sometimes can't even control coming up. It just overwhelms me and presses through me. And I used to kind of be a little embarrassed by that, but I have kind of come to the conclusion that perhaps it's a blessing of a sort, a gift from God, I guess. That I feel things very deeply. And a very good friend of mine has just passed away. And I don't, I've never been a person that had a lot of really close friends. I've always had a pretty good circle of friends around. When I drank, I had more. Drank hard, especially in the bar business. I had a lot more, but since I quit drinking, I have a lot of these friends that usually have a few close ones from today, a couple, three I kind of hang out with. But I don't really hang out so much with people anymore. I used to. And I have a lot of old dear friends that we don't see each other really all that often, but well, it's good when we meet up. And if things ever really came to it, I know that I could turn to them for help. There's not very many of them, really. I'd say I've been blessed, and I'd say I have. My two hands could cover them. And this is one of those friends. And that's hard. And my friend John, Big John D. I'm not really sure if I'm the first one to call him Big John D. I think I am, but could be Bill might have called him that, or Bradley. Part of our circle. But one of the three of us probably did. I don't think that Jeff, his cousin, would have done it, just because they share the same last name. But and Big John, that people were calling him that long before, but that's only natural. I mean, I'm sure that each and every one of you have a friend at least that's similar in that he's the gentle giant. with a heart of gold. Might scare you at first, but if he likes you, nothing like that bear hug. Nothing like it. Real honest and direct. Love of friendship. And it's something that I'll never forget being the recipient of, and well, I remember all my life. And each of the gentle giants I know, it's a little bit different, and John was one of a kind. He was very kind and funny. Very warm. And he had a way of letting you know that he liked you. And everybody that really knew him will miss him. I mean, I know that he has touched the lives of so many people, and we've all loved him. And he'll be missed. It's not the easiest thing to do to note that sort of thing. And it's not so easy to get the news either. I had a few friends contact me and ask if I had heard anything. And I didn't know a thing. I took their news, and it was more than I knew. But I live in Springfield, and John and from he's lived in Jacksonville for most of his life, and so I haven't seen him in a long time, and he'd become reclusive over the years. Not really sure why. Just I think in some ways I am too, compared to the way I used to be. Especially after the bar business. I mean, good grief. I'm quite happy to sit at home in the quiet and not deal with people, especially people that want to just take advantage of my good nature, And I'm sure that there's some of that, and why he kind of kept to himself last several years. But I had gotten a story that his brother passed away a couple of years ago, and I guess he was kind of a little down. And that's understandable. It was right about this time of year too. And I don't know if what had happened exactly, but I can relate to that. It's hard when somebody close to you has died. And his brother was a good man too. I didn't know him so well, but he was always nice to me, and just like the whole family. The family is wonderful people. And very sad. But at any rate, he didn't go to work Monday and call in or anything. And then again, it happened on Sunday, or on Tuesday. I'm sorry. And then they got worried, and because it wasn't like him to not call in at least, and so they broke into his place, and they found him in bed, comatose, and they took him to the Memorial Hospital here in Springfield. And so, everybody asked me if I'd heard anything, and which was possible. I mean, you just never know. He messaged me here and there, just mostly just little joking things, But let me know he was there, and sometimes reading my stuff, on Facebook, But at any rate, he hadn't chatted with me probably, I don't know, 3-4 months maybe. And I haven't actually sat down and talked to him, and it's been over 10 years. It's really sad, but I don't get over to Jacksonville. He doesn't come over here. He comes over here, but he's usually working and he wants to go home. So it's just one of those things. And not only that, I'm not in the bar business anymore, so it's a little harder to find me. But at any rate, so he was in the hospital comatose, and I told my friends that I would stop over there to see how he was doing, and let him know how it was going. But I mostly wanted to talk to the family to find out, because he was, since he's comatose, he's not going to tell me a whole lot. So I get over to the hospital, and the family they'd already left, and I got two different stories from two different people. One of them said that they were coming back, and the other one said they weren't. And I left a message, but yeah, I know how things like that go, because the way things turned out, it was, it's just a little detail, and there's a lot more important things to think about. Yeah, but at any rate, I saw him there, and they let me go in and talk to him, and I did. I touched his hand and kind of held it and talked to him for a little while. I prayed with him and let him know he wasn't alone. But when I was in the hospital and comatose, there were times I would kind of flicker in and flicker out. And sometimes I'd wake up. And I did when I was walked in. I noticed the TV on, and that's the first thing I thought of was, they'd have something on the tube all the time, and it would mess with my dreams, is what it would do. No, I'm serious. That's what happened with television. But I thought about that, and I remember my cousin Danny had come up from Texas, and he wanted to play Johnny Winter's Still Alive and Well for me. You never forget things like that, because I do remember coming to just long enough to listen to a little, and I think I faded right back out. But I thank God for that little time there, you know. And one of the times I met up with John, I did talk about my experience and what I saw. And I will do an episode on that. I've written a couple accounts. I'll kind of actually read it to you, actually. But, and you know, people are interested in things like that. And, you know, how much of it's true, you know, I can't tell you. You know, everything's a jumble to me. You know, time and its order, you know, they just, I don't know, it was kind of scrambled brain from what I went through, you know, and you know, I understand how people going through something highly traumatic, you know, like a car wreck or a gunshot or something like that, that they, you know, being shot, that is, that I can understand how they would react in a way that they don't remember things, or what their memory of things is kind of a little distorted. But I wanted him to know that he wasn't alone, at any rate. And I think he heard me. But I got the word almost right after I left that the family was going to. Well, there was no brain activity on his CAT scan, so there wasn't really a lot they could do. So, I suppose for all practical purposes, the John we knew would not come back. And I was probably talking to the part of him that's probably hovering around somewhere. I don't know, kind of waiting. But he's not alone. There's a level at which we're all connected. And there's also a point at which we're no longer connected. And I think that because I feel a difference now. And when I talked to my friend Cris, and he passed away. But before he passed away, he asked me about my near-death experience. He did a book on supernatural events, and as a theologian, you know, it was remarkable when he would talk about near-death experiences and how there was often something missing, some sort of context that the person's life and their relationship with God and with other people and things like that can't explain it, but it's in there, that there's something missing that we can't I don't want to say detect, but that we can't quantify, I suppose, and maybe even put into words, that skews the theological aspect somewhat, to where that with the facts we have, it just doesn't fit into a theological framework, and to some extent, it's a failing of theology, I suppose. But there's, to my thinking, that there's something deep, a deep structure within our lives that somehow can't be explained and dealt with, because it's hard to again, as I say, to quantify. And Cris Putnam, there we go. Cris Putnam also was saying the same thing to me. We talked about it a little bit. That the validity of the experience is there. The validity of the reality, or I should say the reality of spiritual existence is there. And for every oddity that might arise, there's still a consistent idea that isn't really invalidated theologically. That indicates that there is something beyond the here and now and what we deal with in tangible forms. The three-dimensional world, actually four, because we have to add time to it. The other world might not have so much of a time aspect. So I don't know what will happen beyond there, but I know something will be there, and I pray that, and I prayed with John. I don't know that he could say much, but I think he heard me. Just something tells me he did. And some other people I've talked to think maybe so. And I pray for the family, and I prayed then with him. I love them all. And that there will be a time, I think, in thereafter, when everything is sorted out. I have the feeling that I'll get that big bear hook once again.